And they wouldn't make it to construction because they were out of budget. I mean, I saw that 30 plus years ago, and I said, there is something wrong with this equation. And I really feel that it's part of the disconnect that has existed between architects and the knowledge about construction and being able to have this properly tied in. So I really feel that by an architect having a good grasp of construction cost and good control of the project all the way through, your projects are going to go and going to be built. I mean, the percentage of the projects that get built in our company, it's in the high 90s. We don't have projects that go on the shelves. It just doesn't happen. The only reason that a project will go on the shelf for is if it's some major cause, debts or something along those lines. So I think that's another great advantage in part of this financial improvement to the approach of this industry. Going and talking about a little bit about what how the clients what's so great about it is that it's a really win-win situation, and I'll start talking about it's a win-win situation for everybody involved. And of course, the first person that needs to be talked about here is our clients. It is a total win-win situation for them, which eliminates a lot of the headaches that they've heard in the industry. And to me, this is one of the great advantages to an architect. The housing industry is an industry, especially the custom, I should say, the custom housing industry is a pretty broken toy, in my view. There's a lot of things that are dysfunctional about it. There are problems, and you all know it, and you've seen most of you are in the residential, and how people, the consumer in general, complains about custom home building, about the headaches that are involved, and they're very scared about it, and they heard about all the things, and talk to their friends, and realize all the pitfalls that are in there. And I really feel that by doing design build, you really are able to smooth a lot of those major headaches that are typically that everybody talks about. Such as what I've been talking about. The project was too expensive, we couldn't build it, we got frustrated, we just blew it off and went and bought a house. Then you get through the process of construction and change orders and things that are coming up. People are pointing fingers at each other, and we end up paying for things and so on. The other thing that where the client really is a win-win situation is the very smooth transition between design and construction. That in the typical custom home building process of design, bid, build, the homeowner and the architect will have to go through the nightmarish process of getting bids, and then find out whether the project is on budget, and assuming that it is and everything goes right, there's a lot of emotion that gets and time that gets consumed in that process. By being a design build, and I can tell you from my experience in our company, we start giving our clients a construction cost at the preliminary stage. When we produce the preliminary, there is actually a cost that it is hard. For us, we have a full set of specifications attached to our preliminary drawings, and actually we have full selections of all finishes on our projects. And this happens in the preliminary stage, which is about 20% into the design process, and so our clients are very pleased with that process. By the time we get 50% done, 70% done and finished, cost is an all subject. It's been discussed, it's been assimilated, it's been processed, and they've been able to move ready to say, signing the contract is like they're almost rushing me. Like, at least we know when we're going to send the construction contract, we're ready. So it's a very smooth transition. I mentioned earlier about reducing change orders, and the concept of reducing change orders is precisely because you are giving the clients a lot of information on cost. There are things that get taken in and out of the project, and they're able to fine-tune design through knowledge of cost. So it's the same process that we go and design as far as, I don't know, develop and doing design development, let's say in the ceiling of a house or a particular room, you can look at different cost approaches. So by the time you're in construction, you already analyze that not only from a design point of view, but cost, so eliminate some of those change orders. This next item I have here, which is no wasted time in the emotional part of bidding. You know, those of you that are involved in the design bid build approach to custom residential know that the trauma sometimes there is to deal with multiple builders and all the politics that get played with clients, and the builders are pretty tough on this. I mean, they're fighting out there for a pretty substantial amount of their part of the process, and it gets political, it gets emotional, and I think the design build eliminates all that and makes it very smooth. People that have built before a home in this traditional process know that well, and when you start talking about design build and how you eliminated that, they know what you're talking about. They know that that's just a wonderful thing not to have to worry about that. And the other thing for the client, which is also where they feel that there is a win-win situation. Most clients that are looking to start building their custom home, they realize that they have to have the architect, and maybe the architect recommends an interior designer, maybe they recommends a builder. Is it going to be bidding? They start talking to tons of people, and at least if you do design build, they realize this is great. I don't have to keep looking. These guys sound great, and I have the entire team here. So it's a really win-win situation as far as their timing, and they perceive that, and they enjoy that. Again, one more time, avoiding the whole drastic thing of telling people that didn't get the job, that put a tremendous amount of work in bidding a project, which is a phenomenal task, and in many cases they don't get paid for this. So again, the clients know this, and they appreciate when they don't have to go through that process. By the way, I put in here one of the comments that one of our clients did. We built a house for Martha and Errol, and as a matter of fact, we're finishing a house for their son and wife and family in Lake Austin, and as a matter of fact, as we speak, we're furnishing it right now, and they're going to be moving in right before Thanksgiving. So just put that comment there. By the way, there's Martha. Some of our team there is the lady in the green. A few more things about the win-win situation from a client point of view. And you know, they do perceive this, and this is the number one thing. It saves time and money. And I mean, what an easier thing to sell. I'm going to save you time and money. So it's a real no-brainer for the clients. By bundling the services, they realize that they're going to be saving some. And you know, frankly, I could approach it where, no, I'm going to, you know, this is my architectural fees, this is my construction fees, this is my interior fees, this is my furniture fees. And I mean, I could put on that approach, but I don't. I bundle the services, and I do give them a very good deal. So again, it's a no-brainer for them, because in our company, we don't live or die by architectural income, or even the construction income, or the interior income, or the furnishings income. So, yes, sir.
Related to, putting this in perspective, what's the minimum size from a cost standpoint project you could do that works well for your company?
That's a very good question. And by the way, I encourage y'all to jump in with questions. We will have some time for questions here at the end, but at any time, jump in. That's a subject that we deal very often in our firm, and it's something that needs to be adjusted almost on a quarterly, if not yearly basis. But to answer your question, our company, we build about $20 million approximately a year worth of construction of projects. So we gear ourselves up to that particular. By the way, this part works for us for our volume. We're in 3 cities, and you have to put a particular team together. And so when it comes to your question, what is the smallest project? Our typical smaller project is going to be about a 4,000 square foot home. You know, it's very hard for us to start, or for the consumer to be able to afford what they need to pay for a team like ours to, you know, to put this together. In our markets, also, as the square footages get smaller, the price per square foot is higher. Obviously, so all those numbers start kind of being adjusted. But for us, we're doing some projects that are about 1.6, 1.8. You know, with the recession that we are hopefully just coming out of, we've taken more of those projects lately. But definitely the 1% still choppy.
Those numbers, are they all new construction, or is it a combination of new and renovation?
Okay, good question. The answer is, for our company, it's been over the years largely new construction. I did my first renovation in 1990, and it was a great project for a very wealthy family, and I promised that was going to be my last one. and the reason was because you really need to be very targeted. You know, so much of these things in commercial, residential, in the residential industry are niches that you need to work with. You know, we're on that high-end niche. As I mentioned, that's our bottom size. We've done several projects recently on the $8 to $9 million for the construction of the house, not including furnishings. The furnishings would be about another $1.5 million, plus or minus. Go ahead.
You said that you bundle your fees. You're not nickel and diming, if you will, to people. Right. So when they come in and sit down and decide they want to work with you, they no doubt want to know how they're paying you. So sure. How do you bundle that fee in the very beginning?
Okay, it's a good question, and I'll tell you a little bit about our contract. What I've learned over the years, and I started using AI forms, and I'll talk a little bit later on in the discussion here about contracts, but I'll move on to go with the Home Builder Association construction contract, and I do what I call a pre-construction agreement versus an architect's contract. So that's how I approach this. So basically, I cover my architectural income by having them do a deposit, let's call it. And I don't call it a deposit necessarily, but there's a retainer, and there's certain payments during the pre-construction contract, and then I move to sign the construction contract. So I don't do it on a percentage basis. I basically come up with a figure for them, which is more palatable, I found, than somebody looking at a percentage situation. And then I move right into the construction costs at a stipulated sum. So, you know, again, the whole issue of fees, it just it doesn't get emphasized. What we have to be careful is to be able to compete with our competition in the construction industry, with the home builders. Basically, you know, the home builder, the projects that we're doing are averaging about $350 to $400 a square foot. So if I'm going to be way above my competitors, I'm just not going to get the jobs. I don't care, you know, how good this whole thing sounds. So hopefully that answered a little bit your question.
So your pre-construction services is your design fee.
Yes. Yes.
So, but you're not calling it that. You're saying you're in a process here, and here's what you're paying this stuff up front for this whole, you know, just the beginning of the process.
Right. But let me say this, I don't call it that. Well, I do call it in paper too, because basically what I say is an agreement in which I talk about my deliverables, which is going to be preliminary drawings. I describe the drawing selections and interior design and everything else that I'm going to be delivering. So it's just not called architectural contract or architectural services. That's all. It's just the title of it's not there. Kind of moving along here, for the win-win situation for clients is that, you know, there's no Again, there's no ugly surprises for them due to over-design, as I talked about on cost. Here's one that they really relate to, because they heard that this is the number one thing they heard from their friends when they talk about that they built a house. How was it? Oh my gosh, there was this finger pointing all the time about when problems came in, nobody took responsibility. The contractor was accusing the architect came in and said, no, the architect blah, 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 or the designer came in and they didn't like the way they did things. At the end of the day, it was my wallet answering for all this stuff. With our company, all the fingers are pointing in one direction. So we can't go and talk about how the architect this or the builder that or the interior designer this. When there's a problem, if we generate the problem, the client doesn't even hear about it. I mean, it just doesn't get even to their ears. Or if they see that something is happening in the project and they see that a handrail is coming down or a particular thing is being redone, they ask what happened, and we tell them, oh, we're refining your project. And actually it turns into a very positive thing where they said, we didn't like the way this came out, and we took care of it. And that didn't cost me, no. And it's a really positive experience for them. And I mentioned already about the furnishings part of our process. I'm there with a couple of interior designers. Actually, these two girls are installing their house today there in Lake Austin, Texas. Now moving on to UN, back to the golden egg and or golden goose rather. You have a better profits. I think that already kind of with some of your questions answer a few of these things. The construction in many cases, especially in the residential part of things, will be paying substantially more. The builders have been able to garnish a higher amount of percentage than architects at the residential level. And I'm speaking in general. Obviously, the architects there that have fairly high fees and they have a particular market. But in the average, the builders are not all over the map like the design services are. More buildable projects. I think that this is part of a situation I mentioned earlier about by having a little better knowledge on construction cost. You're able to modulate and fine-tune your design so it does come in budget. Instead of the client and some third entity going back and forth with you about what should be done to achieve the goals. I mentioned earlier too about you have a better control of quality, and this area of control of quality, I like to spend that a little bit more because in the presentations I've had in the past, I've had a lot of questions about this, and let me kind of bring it up that there's a criticism also having a design build area. Since you control the construction, a lot of times you might not challenge yourself as much as you will challenge somebody else to implement some of the construction. So there's a potential for you to try to make it too easy on yourself, and that really is something that you need to do as an architect. You all of a sudden you have an avenue that you have income coming here that you don't want to get too risky. You don't want to stick your head out design-wise too far out because you're going to be on the other side of it implementing it. So it's a situation, and for myself, I'm very conscious of this, and I have to really push myself to say, no, I gotta be innovative. I've got to try new things. I've got to challenge my subcontractors. I've got to challenge my own team. So this part about controlling the quality of your design is a double-edged sword. You do have a lot of control, but also you have a lot of other forces pulling on you to maybe not be as creative if you don't watch it. But nevertheless, in my view, if you have the right approach, it's a really win situation for you because you just got more tools to do better work. And actually to be more daring sometimes, that some architects might not want to be because of fear of busting the budget, and at least you know a little bit more on how to put that together. And in this area of quality of design, and I'll put a comment here, and not having a third party to interfere with your design. This is also a bit of a controversial thing on design build. as I talk to a lot of my peers that do architecture design only, and actually probably that's how we get hit a lot by our competitors, and saying, why are you going to this architect? There's nobody, there's no check and balances, as there typically is on where you have the separation of hours, shall we say, of architects and builders. And to me in here, it really comes down to your ethics, and that's how I sell it. With my clients, is that I have to look up to my reputation as a company. So I don't need to have somebody telling me you didn't do this right or scrutinizing some of our work. We do that, and that's a hard sell. I have to say that is one of the things that I think is a hard sell for a design build company, to convince the client that they don't have that extra layer of a third party checking on you. So I think that we've done very well on that area, but I would say it's almost, I would call it the Achilles heel of design build. It's just not being able to have that. If I have a client that feels very strong about this, I'll always welcome inspections and third-party other people to come in and inspect some of our work. The other thing, building trust with clients early on. And again, I'm speaking here as an architect, but I'm speaking here also as a builder. I am a home builder, so. And I know I'm not speaking to a group of home builders, but if you get involved in design build, you will become a home builder. And I think that's one of the things that is a huge advantage to the architect / builder, to when you move into the construction part of the process, this client is a known entity to you. You know who you're going into the hard part of the process with. And I've noticed that with a lot of my friend builders, that when they move into the construction part of the process, they have no idea, of the personalities and the moods and the, who are they working with. They go and put a bid together and they cross their fingers. That's the thing that's great for us. When we move into construction, we know exactly who we're working with. We know, what we need to be looking for and their needs, etc. So it creates a stronger relationship, which is good for you as a company, because you can provide a better service and therefore have a better experience. And ultimately, of course, it's another good thing for the client too. And so it's a bit in here that I think the builders are a real disadvantage in this particular area.
How do you handle your subcontractor relations? Is that something that you might bid 3 electricians on every job, or do you have an electrician that you work with and give me your price, or do you know what it should cost and talk to 3 electricians and say, if you guys can do it for this, it's yours? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That's part of owning a construction company and going through that whole process. And I tell you, in my 30 years of experience, in my earlier years, I felt that I had to get 10 bids on everything. It was part of my own learning curve. I think that as I became more knowledgeable of the market of electricians, the market of carpenters, the market of such, I started realizing, I don't need to be getting bids from all these guys. I need to get bids from these 2 guys. And so I was able to, and I think that comes with experience in a construction company. And I even, for instance, we started markets in our office in Houston. We opened it about 11 years ago. And so I went there fresh. With the recession right now, I've been able to get a lot of our subcontractors, the market shrunk. And it shrunk not just for us, but for the subcontractor base. So these guys were traveling, 3 hours to, from job to job. And I had what I call single source, where literally not only I had one subcontractor in one city, but I have one subcontractor in 3 cities, which has got some great advantages of control of the product and quality, etc. So that's a good question, because that's one of the many facets that you develop as you learn all the things. Yes, sir.
In your business model, are you, when you're in construction, are you a general contractor, or are you do you have self-work, or are you more of a construction manager?
You said, are you a
Do
general
you
contractor?
have carpenters on staff, or do you sub everything out?
Okay.
And just manage the construction?
It's a little bit of both, and it goes back a little bit, that's a good follow-up to your question about, how many people you use and such. Generally, the answer to your question is a general contractor. The majority of our work is done with subcontractors. And just to give you some, for instance, over the years, I have hired crews, and so I have a separate company in which I manage and create a subcontractor entities. And for instance, I have over the years done all my tile work with a company that I put together. I've done a lot of our labor and site work and such through a separate company. So it's a combination of those things, but it kind of ebb and flows a little bit with the market. In order for you to maintain employees in the construction part of things, it really requires a good amount of volume, which we have had. Just to give you an example, I think that we did our tile work for about 10 plus years, maybe more, 12 years or so. And my foreman that worked for me for almost 20 years, he started his own company. He asked me, he said, Luis, are you okay if I just start having my own company? And I told him, sure, this is a great idea. He is one of my best subs. He's one of those guys that goes all over the state doing work. He really kind of cut back a little bit on my on the things that I'm managing. So I think that's something that each company can have a combination to be the right thing. But to answer your question, largely a subcontractor base or general contractor. Okay. This is just a recap of some of the things that we've already talked about the client and you as a win-win situation. Designing to budget. I put this graphic here because as we're designing and sketching things, by the way, we just launched into Revit about a year ago, and we're going through the process of, I don't know if any of you guys are using Revit? Yeah, so a few people, and that's been kind of a little bit of a traumatic process and moving from AutoCAD to doing that and being a design build company. But I'm super excited about all the possibilities because one of the things that I found is that a lot of the companies that are using Revit are using it primarily for the 3D process and for the presentations. And all this BIM products, the real promise of this products is to give you construction information, which, by the way, as I sit in so many seminars, the architects are really not too excited about using the construction information because of the liability that presents to them. Well, again, and I'll talk a little more about liability in a minute, but to a design build company is just a total natural. So I'm very excited about that. I mentioned about wasting some time on things that are high budget already. Very complete bidding and cost update information to your clients. But I was mentioning on this graphic how a client will be asking me, Luis, should we put columns here? Should we, what about this handrail? And this information that I can give him many times sitting there on the table, because I know a lot of this information myself and some of the people in my company do, just right at the top of our heads, and I can tell them, okay, well, that's going to be a $5,000 proposition, or a $10,000 or a $1,500 proposition, and it is so easy for the clients right there to be making those decisions. And if I don't have the information, I'll have it for them in 2 days or so. So it's just a tremendous tool where everybody wins in that. One thing I wanted to mention here, I put here this note about control over detailed drawings. I think a lot of people think that because you're a design build company, you know the subcontractors and you know what's going on in the field so that you don't have to draw as many things or get it as detailed because you kind of wing it. Wrong. I mean, I think that probably our set of drawings is probably in our community. I think that probably our drawings are the most complete set of drawings but put up against any architect in Austin or Houston, because knowing all the liabilities and all the process and who's using these drawings, you kind of carry it in the other direction. Our drawings are extremely heavy and detailed. And it's a misperception. Now I've talked to other design build companies that don't have that approach, and I personally think it's a mistake. In my view, they probably haven't learned enough lessons. But most definitely I encourage that. And I think that as you begin to learn from the school of hard knocks in construction, when something starts costing you money, you realize, I better put some drawings in here so there's no misunderstandings between my client and I about what I'm providing. Forget the design service. Am I providing this that is worth $5,000 or $50,000? So, proper specification drawings are crucial. Again, already, another very important one here, timely construction start. I mentioned the smooth transition because of cost information, but it really allows you in many cases to fast track construction. That's one of the things that is kind of nice. The process of fast tracking, meaning that you can start construction before the drawings are 100% done. It's just a real natural with this way to be organized. This house right here is a house that we finished it's actually a year ago. It was they moved in for Thanksgiving last year. And they were in a real hurry to get started, and we were able to start. It was a 16,000 square foot house with a batting cage inside and lots of bells and whistles on it. We were able to start them under construction 2 months after they hired us, and it's just a great potential to be able to fast track. I'm going to have to kind of speed along here because I'm going just a little behind. How to get started and succeed.